After over 20 years of experience with horses, I thought I knew a lot as a horse owner about horse care, riding, tack, all the things. I thought I knew a lot. But I had a very cold and harsh reality set in this year. I actually do not know as much about those things as I thought I did. And that realization hit me like a ton of bricks. This year I had a wake-up call, let's call it that. I had a wake-up call that I do not know as much as I thought about horses just in general, horse care, grooming, tack, riding, anything horse related. I don't know a whole lot. And in fact, my education about those things stalled out years ago. Sure, I've picked up bits and pieces of knowledge along the way. My education hasn't completely stopped. I have learned things over the past 20 years, but when I really took a step back and looked at my work with horses, I have definitely been coasting on basically just the knowledge that I picked up in 4-H as a child years and years ago. When I got my first horse, I was basically immediately put into 4-H, where I learned a ton all at once about horses. I learned a wide variety of the basics. I remember getting the 4-H manual. I remember it to this day. It was paper, had a light green cover on it, and I don't know how many times I read that manual. I read about basic parts of the horse and the saddle, basic grooming care, the different gaits that a horse travels in. I definitely learned a lot from 4-H, and I will be forever grateful for the things that I learned in 4-H. And don't get me wrong, that knowledge that I learned in 4-H, all of those basic foundational things about working and living with horses, they are super, super important. But for someone who is intent on being a lifelong horse owner, my education should not have stopped when my time in 4-H stopped. But unfortunately, it basically did. I can't confirm this, but I don't think I'm alone in being in a situation like this. I think it's very, very normal to get into something, learn just enough to be dangerous, and then just kind of get comfortable where you are at. And especially if you don't have other more experienced people guiding you and checking you when you're doing things wrong, it's very easy to just get into a routine and a pattern of the way you're doing things with your horses, which definitely happened to me. I think what I really missed up to this point as an equestrian is that being a horse person is a lifelong journey. You are always going to be a student of the horse. I know people who have been in the horse industry and involved with horses for 40 plus years, and they are still learning new things about horses. And you even look at our professionals, our vets and whatnot, they are constantly going to new courses and conferences because there's always something new to learn about horses. And it's kind of just ridiculous of me to think okay, I got it, I know it, we don't need to invest in my education in horses anymore. Big mistake. Why was it a big mistake? Honestly, it goes back to the horse, right? If I do not know something and I miss something with my horses, or I'm just completely oblivious about what is going on, my horses are the ones who are going to suffer, whether I'm intentionally doing that or not. And in this case, I'm just ignorant. It's very unintentional if I'm doing something wrong with my horses. I would never want to do anything to harm them or otherwise negatively impact their lives. But if I am not educated as a horse owner, unfortunately, the risk of that happening goes up. And I feel incredibly bad if that has been the case. One of the big reasons that this all came up in the first place and this realization came to be is that a couple of people, I've been posting a lot of content on Instagram and YouTube about horses, And there's been a couple of instances where people have pointed things out to me very respectfully. They haven't been like calling me out and like putting me down or anything. It was very much a, hey, you're not doing this correctly. You might want to fix it before you move on. And when they pointed it out, I had a couple of reactions. One, I was, I don't know, almost like grumpy that someone was telling me I was doing something wrong. We never want to be told we're doing something wrong. Then I felt embarrassed because, again, 20 plus years in the horse industry and I was doing this particular thing wrong. That's definitely embarrassing. And then it was also just frustration on my part that, like, why do I not know that? Like, why? And it just goes back to I have not intentionally tried to educate myself or sought out people to educate me. I have not invested that time, and as a result, I don't know some things that I definitely should at this point in my horsey career. Embarrassing. So then the question comes up like, okay, I've identified that there's this gaping hole here. What am I going to do about it? How am I going to correct this? And I think the first thing is just realizing, okay, we are at this place, we need to correct it. So just acknowledging it first and foremost, and then realizing I need to adopt the mindset of a lifelong student. And what do students do? They go and try and get educated. They're constantly trying to learn. They're investing in their education. So that's what I'm going to do. One of the easiest things for me, I love podcasts. I have AirPods. I don't know if you guys have noticed from my other content. I have AirPods in my ears constantly, and most of the time I'm not listening to music, I'm listening to podcasts. And I recently found a couple of really, really good horsey podcasts. One of them specifically is straight from the horse doctor's mouth. So one of the things that I really want to improve is my knowledge about just horse health and caring for a horse, straight from the horse doctor's mouth. I think they've been around since 2018 or something. They have a ton of episodes and I've learned so much. My goal right now is to try and listen to one of their episodes every single day until I get caught up. And oh my gosh, I've learned so much. And it's easy, right? I love listening to podcasts, and so I just need to be intentional about making sure they're downloaded, ready to go. Off we go. I'm also going to be very intentional about other forms of content that I'm consuming. So the YouTube videos that I'm watching, the books that I'm reading, those would be the big two for sure. I'm making sure I always have a list of books about these kind of things that I want to read. As far as YouTube goes, Amelia Newcomb, dressage. If you need anything riding related, she is your gal. Even if you do not do dressage, I think her content is incredible. I could not say enough good things about Amelia. I love her channel so much. That's all kind of, I guess, theoretical stuff. As far as like more practical things that I'm going to work on, I really think it's important that Diesel and I seek out help from professionals. So that kind of looks like maybe clinics, riding lessons, potentially taking Diesel to a trainer. He's not a finished horse. He is well trained, but there are definitely some things to work on. I think as part of this, I need to acknowledge, again, I do not know everything. Potentially getting the help from a professional might be the best course of action, i.e. taking him to a trainer for 90 days or something like that. I don't know what that would look like, but like seeking out people in the horse industry, I think that was why part of the reason why 4-H was so good is because I had leaders and other parents around me all the time who were involved in the horse industry, knew things, and were constantly teaching me. Since I left 4-H when I was, 15, I haven't really had that. I've had some coaches along the way. I've had a barrel racing coach. I've taken a few lessons here or there. I've gone to some clinics, but I haven't really had that constant relationship with someone to kind of mentor me through this process. And I think if I'm really serious about improving myself as an equestrian, I think that's going to be something I need to really consider. And I don't know why I've shied away from that in the past. I think a lot of it is just I'm very introverted. I like being at home, And yeah, part of me just wanting to like, I'm gonna figure this out myself, which obviously hasn't gotten me very far. So that's kind of the plan of attack at this point as far as fixing this, I'm just gonna say, embarrassing situation that I find myself in. So that was kind of the big realization of 2024. Usually for my last video of the year, I do like a wrap up of all the things I've done with my horses, but I thought this in particular was really important that this be the last video of 2024 that I really talk about the importance of educating yourself as a horse owner. And going into 2025, we are going to be full steam ahead on this. That's going to kind of be the theme of the year, is just, yes, becoming a better equestrian, a better horse owner, and maybe even eventually a horse expert. That is the goal. I would love to hear from you guys. Have you found yourself in a similar situation to this? Have you been around horses for years and years and years, but realized that there might be things that you don't know that you probably should? Like, am I alone in this, or has anyone else found themselves in this pickle? If so, I would love to hear from you. You can check me out anywhere at Strong in the Saddle. And until next time, remember, it's always a good day to ride.